Who's driving? What the? Good morning, expats and foreigners and global citizens out there. This is James at the Boss Upstairs. Today's video is going to be about visas, but it's not just a typical Q&A type visa thing. I want to discuss the different types of visas that we would basically get as an expat, as a foreigner coming in. And this doesn't just apply to the U.S. foreigners, it applies to several different countries as well, because there are nuances in these things, you know, for different countries. Some countries are a little bit more vetted than others. In any event, I also want to discuss switching. If you have an SRRV visa, how I've been getting a few inquiries about switching and downgrading back to or not back to, but downgrading to a 13A. Now, I hate to call that a downgrade because that's your marriage visa basically. So I don't like to use the word downgrade, so I won't. But and why you would do it? You know, why would you go from a retirement visa, an SRRV, which is a beautiful visa, it's a wonderful visa with a lot of benefits, to a 13A? You know, maybe you got married since then, and maybe you want to get your deposit back and use it for something else, whether it be for something planned or something medical or something like that. But in any event, this is going to kind of be an informal video here, so pardon my mistakes, but I probably won't edit them out. I'm just going to speak off the cuff here and go forward with it, okay? So for foreigners, expats, digital nomads who maybe just want to come out here and test the water, you know, they're not quite full-time here, or they're not sure if they want to be, this is a great video for you. The episode is kind of a 2025 visa masterclass. Now, I have reached out to JR at JRC Visa Consulting and Immigration, and they also do real estate now too, which is pretty cool, because that was a well-needed niche. See, I told you I'm not going to cut this stuff out. For some people, even like my wife and I, who were, you know, either buying or selling, usually there's not much representation for people who are selling, sometimes not enough for people who are buying. So anyway, I'm giving them a plug. But I did reach out to him just this morning to see if he would come and do a interview, whether it be virtual or face-to-face. I much prefer face-to-face. So we'll see what he says. But this material that I've gathered over the last 3 or 4 days is off of various different websites and sources. So it won't be too far off. I have reviewed their website as well, and it's pretty in line with what they have. So we're going to cover the 9A tourist visa, is one of the main ones we're going to cover, okay? Because that's what most of us start with here. And then, if not all of us, and then we're going to cover the 13A, okay, which is the visa by marriage. The bulk buy-in visa, we're going to cover that too, which is the 1-year free visa. And the my favorite, the SRRV, the Special Resident Retirees Visa. We're going to cover that, and I can kind of go in depth on that one because I have that one. I've gone through that process myself. We're also going to cover the SIRV, which is an investor visa. Now, that's been around a while, but there's a new investor visa that has come out just last year, 2024, and it's called the FIV. /FAB investor visa, and it's got a few more perks, like processing time is a lot less on there and things like that. So, and then the other visas I'm not going to go into too deeply, but I am going to be finishing the compiling the digital visa book. So the ebook on that, again, just like the real estate vault book, it's going to have clickable links to all the government sites. It's going to have fillable and editable forms. So you can just create your own forms from a boilerplate template, plug in everything. Now on the visa one, there's not too many forms you need to create, basically, because they're all applications and links for informative resources. So, but we are going to have all that stuff, the special work permit visas, the religious visas, but we're going to talk about how some specific expat countries of origin carry a nuance and enhanced vetting considerations. So we're going to talk about what GRC visa consultancy and immigration offers, their fee packages, their reviews, and again, they do real estate now, which is great. We're going to discuss overstays and the resolution to those, because those are serious, you guys. Those are serious. The BI, the Bureau of Immigration, are taking those very seriously now, especially with everything that's going on overseas, okay? So going to discuss the truth about the red tape, the annual reporting, and the gotchas tied to each different type of visa. And then why switching from an SRRV or any of the special residency visas to a 13A could save you thousands or cause you bureaucratic headaches. The jury's still out for me to do that. Right now, I've chosen not to do it, and I'll share that with you why. But basically common mistakes that expats make, there I go again, that expats make. I'm not going to edit this, sorry guys, and how to avoid them. So, and again, we have a free subscriber digital visa guidebook that's coming out sometime next week. And so, let's get started on this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the link to all the information, okay, in the description. So as I'm talking, you know, don't feel compelled that you have to write down all these notes, because you're going to have everything I've discussed there. So, so the 9A tourist visa, let's just start with that. We all know pretty much we need that to come in, and it's pretty much a 30-day, 29, 30-day visa upon arrival to figure out, you know, what we're going to do. It's extendable, and a lot of people have been here for up to 3 years, actually more. But technically, you know, it's right now, as of today, things change every day with the Bureau of Immigration, with the BI. So what I'm telling you today might slightly be different tomorrow, okay, or was slightly different yesterday. But as of the research that I've got up to today, it's extendable up to 36 months, okay, for most nationals, okay? Now, there are some nationals, foreign nationals that come in from specific countries that it's a little bit different, okay, and I'll go over that. But, so that's the 9A, okay, and that's the basic one we all start with most likely. Then if you're getting married, you usually just hang on to your 9A until you get married, then you apply for the 13A. Well, the 13A is what they call a non-quota immigrant visa, and it's marriage-based. So it's tied to your marriage, which means it's tied to the success of your marriage, the success of your relationship. Now, that is a wonderful visa. It doesn't have a lot of you know, high fees to it. There is an initial application fee, and I'm looking at it right down here, so excuse while I take my eyes off there. The one-time application fee is 8,620 pesos for each person, for the principal and the spouse. So that's with the fees, with the ACR card and all that stuff, it's about 17,200 pesos, or roughly $300, give or take, okay? So that's the 13A, and with that, you're gonna have to have your ACR card, okay? And I believe your ACR card does have an annual renewal of about 300 pesos, so that's not too bad. 310 pesos a year, as of today. So your grand total on that's about 307 bucks, okay, US, 17,550 pesos. But there's no annual visa fee beyond, like there's no reporting fee. There's the only thing is the ACR card fee. So that's a really good visa if you're getting married or plan to get married, okay? So now, the Balikbayan visa is a 1-year free stay visa, and that's for former Filipinos who bring their spouse and family back into the Philippines. Okay, so if they're former Filipinos, you can get married. Let's say you get married in the U.S. or the U.K., Australia, whatever, and you come back as a Filipino into the Philippines. That is a great visa. It's a 1-year free visa for both, the Filipino and the spouse of the Filipino. So usually used for foreign spouses who travel with their Filipino wife or husband. That's the purpose of that one. Now, there's no other fees or stamp fees associated with that one. So again, it's 1 year free, and it is extendable. They usually give 1 month extensions at 500 pesos a month. Okay, so or two month for 1,000. So it's a good visa if you do a lot of traveling, or if you just want to bring a spouse back into the Philippines and you're a Filipino. All right, it's affordable. So. The next one is the SRRV Classic, which is the one that I have. And it's for healthy retirees who are coming in aged 50 or more. Excuse my Persian friend here. I don't want him to shake the table because he'll shake the camera. I have a different tripod here right now. No, Maui. Here. You want to see the audience? Maui, come here. This is Maui. Maui, Maui, Maui. And anyway, Maui is our Persian cat. We have 6 cats. So I'm going to let Maui go down on the floor and hope he stays there. So the SRRV is a very popular retirement visa. You don't need to be married. You can be, like I am, okay? I elected for the SRRV instead of the 13A because after I researched it, yes, it was more expensive. If you have a pension of, I believe, $800 or more a month, no matter where it's from Social Security or your employer, you have to put up a $10,000 U.S. deposit in an approved Philippine bank, and they have a list of those. Now, it's usually, I think mine was with Land Bank, was one of the banks. So it's a good visa for most, because it's not tied to a marriage, which the marriage ties to a relationship. The relationship ties to individual people, to spouses. So, and it's not that you're saying, oh, well, but yeah, I want to be careful because, I don't know if I'm stable with my spouse. No, it has nothing to do with that. At least for me, not. Okay, I know I'm stable. I have no issues with that. Neither does she. But that's not always the situation for expats, okay, as we know. So be careful with that. The SRRV is a safety gap for those people those expats that come in, and they're not quite sure, they're maybe just getting married and they don't want to do the 13A yet. So if they have the funds and they can do the SRRV, I say that's the best route. Now, if you don't have a pension or Social Security, the deposit goes from 10,000 US to 20,000 US, okay? So that is one of the drawbacks. You are tying up your money. You can invest it. They will allow you to invest that deposit into a condominium project or a long-term lease. The long-term lease is a little bit more complicated, so you can't get your spouse to give you a lease and think that that's going to qualify and she'll get your money. It doesn't work that way, okay? So the other thing is this, is if you get this type of visa, if you're military, if you're retired military, it's only $1,500 deposit. So that's a huge difference, okay? So if you're military and you're married or getting married, I strongly, in my opinion, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not giving legal advice, I never do, okay? But in my opinion, I would go with the SRRV. I believe they call it the expanded, because the classic is if you're not military. I'm sorry, expanded. It's the SRRV courtesy, the expanded courtesy. It's the U.S. military retired. It's also for former Filipino citizens, 50 plus. But the main thing here is we're working with expats and foreigners. So the SRRV courtesy is a $1,500 deposit. A lot better than $10,000 if you have a pension, or $20,000 if you don't have a pension. Okay. Now, people say, what are the fees associated? Okay, the fees with either one of those, whether you're military or not, is the applicant is, which is all there is, really. You're not paying anything for your spouse, because if you're going SRRV, you're the only applicant, okay? Is $1,400 US is the one-time application fee for either one of those, whether you're military or not. So, and about, you know, when something, God forbid, should happen to us, but we need to plan for both. What if something, God forbid, should happen to our Filipino spouse? You know, what will become of our 13A visa then, if we have a 13A, if we elect to go with that? Well, it'll be downgraded automatically within, I believe, 90 days or less by the Bureau of Immigration, BI, to back down to a 9A, to a tourist visa, okay? So that is one of the drawbacks, you know, beside annulment, beside divorce, because if you're in the U.S., I don't know about the other countries, but if a U.S. citizen having an SRRV who's now a permanent resident in the Philippines wants a divorce, and Gio in the Philippines had this on his channel as well, that foreigner can go back to the U.S. and file for divorce there. And then he could bring all the papers back here to the Philippines and show that to the Philippines Statistics Authority, and they'll go ahead and reset him to single. Now, he has to share that paperwork. He or she has to share that, well, doesn't have to, but should, okay, morally should give copies of all that, certified copies, to the ex-spouse that he just divorced or she just divorced, so they too can reset back to a single person, all right? And that's important. So the SRRV versus the 13A, okay, that's a big question, and we're going to discuss that. And real quickly, the SIRV is a special investors resident visa that came out back in 1987, and what that is, just, you know, where you invest 75,000 US dollars in some kind of a business or the stock market. So basically, your capital investment replaces the age gap, okay? Because there's no age requirement on the SIRV, the special investors resident visa. There's no age gap there. So, and again, all these special resident visas are indefinite, okay? So as long as the investment is made, they're maintained. Same with the SRRV. As long as you keep that $10,000 or $20,000 in the approved bank, your permanent residency status is indefinite, okay? And it stays there. Now, the fees associated with the SIRV, one-time application fee of $300. And again, remember, you guys, all this is going to be in a description link. You can just copy paste, or just copy paste what applies to you or your family or your friends or whoever you want to share it with. There's a Bureau of Immigration visa fee of, it looks like, a little more than 10,000 pesos. Okay, this is for your investment. So you got your $75,000 investment. To get that, you have a $300 application fee, which isn't too bad, really, because they figure if you're putting up 75K, you know, they're not going to hit you too hard on the application fee, right? And then the BI, the Bureau of Immigration, they have about $180 application fee at that point there, and then there's some additional counselor fees and things like that. They're not very much, because certain, like if you're from New York State and this goes through the New York consulate, they have a $500 additional fee. Go figure. New York and California are very expensive states. Wouldn't doubt it. But anyway, so once you have your probationary SIRV, it does convert to indefinite, and you get your card. Okay, so there's fees associated with it. I'm not going to go into them in this part of the video here, but there's a comparison. Look, this new visa out is kind of a big deal for investors, and this may not apply to you, but the SRRV, the older one that came out in 1987, versus the new one, which is the FIV or FAB, it's the same thing in comparison, which was launched last year. You know, the old one is controlled more so by the BOI, which is Board of Investments, and the Bureau of Immigration, those put together. This FIV one is controlled by the authority of the Freeport area of Bataan, which it's like an investment rehab area of the Philippines that they're trying to expand and do more tourism to bring more funds in. So they're basically promoting a special visa for but your investment has to stay within their geographical zone to qualify. And that's all I'm going to go into with that one. I'm not going to go into much else about that, though, okay? There's a special resident visa for employment generation. I'm not going to go too deep into that, but if you want to come out here and open, say, a restaurant or a hotel, a resort, something, if you employ at least 10 Filipinos, you can get a residency based on that visa, which is SVEG, Special Resident Visa for Employment Generation. Okay, then there's all kinds of different ones where you'll see in the description. So in the description, you'll also see the long-term ones like the 9G, the 9G, the 9D, the 13G, the quotas, the VUAs, the visa upon arrivals, the student visas, the mission. I'm not going to go into all that in here. That's something you can read, okay? So basically, to summarize the types of visas, okay, you've got your 9A, which you initially start with, okay? Now, some people will come in on the Bayan visa if they're coming in with a Filipino, with a prior Filipino citizen or current. So, but basically you got your 9A tourism, which either will work its way into a 13A if you're getting married, or an SRRV even if you're getting married but you want something more solid, not connected to a marital platform. So now, the benefits, and this is what I want to talk about. Okay, so this part of the video I want to talk about. What are the benefits from switching to an SRRV? Let's just take myself, for example. Okay, I have a pension. I only had to put $10,000 in, and it's not only, that's a big chunk of money. But so they're still holding the $10,000, okay? And again, I can invest it in a condo if I want. I really don't want. You know, you've seen our videos, you know, kind of, you know, we live out in an agricultural area about 800 meters from a national highway and about 20 minutes from Bacolod. So we're pretty happy here. I can't see us living a condo life. We got pets and all that. You might be in the same situation. If you're single, or if it's husband and wife, or if you just have one child, maybe two children, a condo might be a great place for you. If you travel a lot, a condo is a wonderful place for you, okay? But for me, no. So, in my case, if I wanted to switch and get my $10,000 back, which is roughly about 500,000 pesos, right? By the way, I think today's exchange rate is 57.6, somewhere in there, to the US dollar, okay, peso to dollar. I usually check it on Wise. So if I want to switch, let's say I want my 500,000 pesos back because whatever, my wife and I want to just sit on it, or we want to, you know, invest it in some property, or invest in a business, or take a trip, whatever the case is. I can do that because when you have an SRRV, and you're already married, you're already eligible for the 13A automatically, okay? So, you know, you already qualify for the 13A, which I already do, okay? I've been married for close to 3 years now. So, now, how does the Philippines look at this, okay? From what the websites and the forums, you know, and the chats and the groups say, They look at a 13A visa as a more stable familial tie to the Philippines. Rather than an SRRV, they tie it to, well, here is somebody who just loves the Philippines and wants to retire. Now, I think that's a shallow kind of feeling for the SRRV, because there's a lot of people who are married that have SRRVs as opposed to 13A marriage visa, such as myself. Now, your case, put it in the comments. I'd like to know. What are your feelings on it? Are you married? Are you getting married? Which visa do you have now? Because what I'll do is I'll share your comments in the next episode. All right, it'll help all of the expat community out there, the foreigners community out there. So even the digital nomad community, a lot of digital nomads decide to stay here. So, so the 13A does become permanent after 1 year. So the 13A is a probationary period. So let's say I want to turn my SRRV in. I'm starting from the beginning again of a 13A. So I'm going to have a 1 year probationary period at that point, okay, to start over. So with the 13A, let's take a look. What are the minuses about leaving behind your SRRV and moving to a 13A and collecting your deposit, whether it's $10,000 or $20,000 US dollars? Okay, the 13A takes 3 to 6 months, they say. JR would know, and hopefully we can get him on an interview to help with this. But a 13A, they say, takes 3 to 6 months to process it. Okay, and then you'll need to surrender your SRRV, put in a formal withdrawal, and apply from scratch to 13A. All right. Now, the 13A does not have any special privileges like the SRRV has. And SRRV has some perks, some discounts, a few privileges. If you're not traveling, coming in and out, it's not a big deal because, there's no exit clearance required. If you're holding an SRRV visa, you don't need to do your exit clearances, okay? So, even if you travel once or twice a year, that could be a big deal for you. So if you go back to, or if you switch to a 13A, you're going to have exit clearances, okay? And the SRRV visa is basically sponsored and facilitated and operated by the PRA, the Philippines Retirement Authority, all right? So, I could be wrong. I want to say that's kind of like an NGO, like a non-governmental organization, but it acts in concert with the government. So now, the other thing is the vulnerability of a marriage if it fails. Let's say, God forbid, I don't even want to say me. Let's just take John Doe. If his marriage fails and he holds a 13A now, he gave up his SRRV and his marriage fails, he will be downgraded. His 13A will be immediately, within 90 days or so, be downgraded to a tourist visa again. Okay, right where he started again, or right where she started again. So again, if your Filipino spouse, if something, God forbid, should happen to her and she's not around anymore, I mean like deceased, you're right back to square one. You're back to a tourist visa. So you got to decide, either you're going to get an SRRV or you're going to keep extending your tourist visa. All right, that's the other minus of going back to a 13A. And I want to get into the more important and bigger issues now with that, which kind of changed my mind of not going to a 13A. Okay, more reporting requirements. Now remember, just a little while ago I said the SRRV is basically overseen and regulated by the PRA, the Philippines Retirement Authority. So a lot of expats that hold SRRV visas, there may only be one really good reason why they hold it. They do not want to continue to go down to the BI every, so many months, or even once a year or twice a year. It's just less bureaucracy in their life, less red tape. You know, so, and they can exit in and out with an SRRV. They can't, they can with a 13A, but they got to get their exit clearance, okay? So they don't want to deal with an ACR card, renewing that every year. They just don't want to deal with it. I'm one of those. I would rather not go to the BI, to the Bureau of Immigration, to visit if I don't have to, you know. So that's another huge plus. Basically, and I was talking to an expat friend of mine, basically we agreed on something with the SRRV versus the 13A. The SRRV has the Philippines Retirement Authority stamp on your side. They're basically the buffer in between the BI, the Bureau of Immigration, and you, okay? You got the PRA, the Philippines Retirement Authority, in the middle that monitors your visa. And you just renew it every 2 years. You renew the card, okay? It's just a card you get. You renew the card every 2 years. And I believe that's the $360 every 2 years, okay? And then on this side, you got the Bureau of Immigration. You really don't have to deal with them, okay? You can deal with an accredited marketer who's approved by the PRA here in the middle, the Philippines Retirement Authority. And by the way, JR and JRC Visa Consultancy is an approved marketer of PRA. So, and you don't get charged if all you're doing is renewing your card, your SRRV card, every 24 months. Now, I say you don't get charged. I don't think JR charges to do that. And I'll go over what his services are, because normally you can get any marketer, you know, within the circle who's approved, and it's free. There's no charge because the PRA pays them. They pay them to assist us foreigners, okay? And there's a reason why they do that. I hope I'm not covering up my mic. I just noticed that. There's a reason why the PRA pays marketers. They do not want fixers in this business. They do not want scammers in this business. There's people that used to go out there. They still may, but a lot less now. You know, hey, I can get you an SRRV. Just give me 10K down. I'll have it for you in 30 days. No more of that. So the best thing that they ever did was to say you cannot get an SRRV unless you're working with an approved marketer by the PRA or yourself. So if you're doing it directly, no problem. But why would you if there's no fee? Get the marketer. Wow, ours went smooth. I say ours because it's basically for my wife and I, but it's my SRRV. Went smooth. Just easy peasy smooth. Okay? I think 1 or 2 visits, signed, picture, photo ops. You know, you've seen them on Facebook probably. And JR knows how to handle that stuff, okay? He can do that stuff. So I don't know if he charges a fee. I'm not sure. And if he does, it's going to be because he's doing something more than just, you know, he might be doing things on your behalf where you don't have to go down there. You know, so I'm not sure. But we'll know if I can get him on the show and, you know, we can get to interview him. And I want to give him whatever questions you input in these comments too. So then we're ready for the next episode in this series of the visas, okay? So that's a huge plus. You've got the buffer in between you and the Bureau of Immigration. Huge plus. A lot of stress out of your life, okay? A lot of stress out of your life. Now, if you really do want to switch and you really do need the money, whether it's for a family emergency, a medical emergency, or you guys just want the money to invest it, put it in a savings, or just blow it on a worldwide cruise. Whatever. It's your money, right? You know, so, which reminds me of, why is it, and they do this at banks, almost in every country, right? When you go to take a little bit of money out of your account, I was just talking to a friend of mine about this. What is it for, ma'am? What is it for, sir? What will you be using the money for, sir? I mean, I understand why they do that, okay? Anti-money laundering laws, and probably the banks have been, you know, pressured to do certain things and operate on a certain protocol. But I think it's funny how some people say, none of your damn business. It's my money, I'm taking it out. Now, I've never said that to the bank. We have good relationships with the bank, and I kind of know why they do it. But still, it's in the back of my mind, I'm wondering, I don't know. Anyway, sorry, I went off topic. Okay, so now we're back on topic. Sorry about that. So, whatever you need it for. Now, if you do want to switch, okay, you don't switch if you value your independence and you want minimal bureaucracy in your life. I wouldn't switch. That's my opinion, okay? Do not switch, also, the second thing of the two things, if you're older or medically vulnerable, because the PRA could help. They got some discount medical plans and things like that, okay? Not health insurance, but other benefits, okay? So those are two things if you really want to switch, just to look at those as a last minute, should I do it, should I not thing, okay? Now, so if you want to switch, then at least switch, and have a strategy plan. You hold your SRRV until the last minute, until you can get your 13A approved, because I think you can do that. JR would be better to answer that, but I think you can do that, okay? And then you give up your SRRV, because you have to put in a withdrawal. There's paperwork involved in that, and it normally takes, I believe, about 90 days or so to get your money back. It's like anything here in the Philippines. It's not going to happen overnight, okay? So, So, we talked a little bit about those things, and JRC Visa Consultancy and Immigration, they're basically a visa and immigration consulting service, okay? They do the SRRVs, the spousal 13As, the investor visas, the tourist visas. Now, a big, huge thing is they help with overstays, okay? And now they're doing real estate sales, leasing, and document processing, which is great. So they are accredited by the Department of Labor, by the Bureau of Immigration, and by the Philippines Retirement Authority, by the PRA. God, so many letters and acronyms. Okay, they have locations in Cebu, which I believe is their main office, Dumaguete, and Parañaque, Manila. So either Manila or Cebu, they're probably both main offices. I don't know. Now, I know JR travels. Okay, I know he travels. I think he did an interview or a live with, I believe a while ago, maybe a month or two ago, whatever, with That Philippines Life with Michael. And it was a great live. And I'm hoping to be able to either to do a live with them or a face-to-face interview. So his name is JR, and I'm going to put all of his contact information in the description, okay? And I'll put links. Everything is in there. His email, his phone number, everything. Now, people ask, well, what does he charge? Well, you'll be able to talk to him, but I'm going to share with you what the other expats are saying, okay? Don't hold me to this price, okay? One expat says, JR will cost you $1,000, which is about 57,000 pesos, on top of your PRA fees. So the PRA, Philippine Retirement Authority fees are, remember, $1,400 US, okay, and another $360. So you're looking at about close to $1,800 plus his $1,000. So you're looking at roughly, $2,800 for the whole process if you have him handle it, okay? And now, I had a marketer handle mine, okay, and JR is a marketer. He's approved. So I highly recommend you have a marketer handle, whether it's JR or not, okay? Have a marketer handle it, all right? Now, again, if JR does it, he's probably, doing additional services, maybe that a marketer who won't charge you or who's not allowed to charge you for those, for services A and B, will do. But JR obviously does something, adds a service C or D, C and D. I don't know. You have to talk to him. So do not hold me to those prices, okay? Now, again, he handles overstays, and what I've been getting from a few other expats is his overstays fees are average about $2,700. Now, understand why. That is a complicated process, okay? And it takes a lot of time, a lot of phone calls, and a lot of sometimes going down to the office. So JR just doesn't handle things via email or messenger or send somebody. He handles a lot of this stuff himself, and a lot of it is face-to-face when you're talking about overstays, okay? It's not an easy thing, okay? So roughly in total, an overstay with the BI fees, you know, with all this stuff, could run you about $3,500, okay? You know, which is almost a couple 100,000 pesos. So don't overstay. Don't overstay. Don't think you're gonna, I'll just do it next month. I'll do it next month. Yeah, don't do that. And as far as his reviews, they're premium. They're great. Okay, his reviews all came in good. Obviously, he wouldn't be on other people's YouTube channels and, you know, promoting his service. He does his own channel. He's got his own channel, obviously. You know, so he's very attentive, and he gets the job done. From what I can see, I have never used him. I'm going by what other expats say. I'm looking at the reviews and all that stuff, and I've watched his videos. I've watched him on other people's channels. He's quick-witted. He's very smart. He knows his stuff. Okay. Again, I'm not getting paid. This is not a promotion for JRC, but my goal is to help you, okay, as a foreigner like me, just to give you as much information as possible. And I'm going to share all this also with Goldfinger on the Goldfinger Minute, his show. Okay, and Old Dog Paul is another great show. He's actually a liaison for the embassy, okay, for the U.S. Embassy. So, you know, there's a lot of people in the expat community that all we want to do is just help each other, all right? Because, you know, we're navigating out here and it's not always easy, all right? So let's see, I'm going to give you all his contact information, all that stuff, all right? So the last thing I'll touch on is there are certain foreigners that come in from certain countries that there'll be additional vetting. If you're coming in from China on tourism or business, you generally come in on a VUA, they call it a visa on arrival. Okay, you start there. You can get the special investor, the SRRV and the SRRV. It's a little different vetting. The Chinese nationals are subject to a much stricter background check, especially in regions like Clark, Subic, Bataan. It's due to a lot of that previous POGO stuff, the online gaming, the POGO, what is that, Filipino Online Gaming Organization. That's against the law. That's now gone, okay? It's gone. They do not have that anymore. But it was run by a lot of Chinese nationals, so that's why they're very careful. It does not mean that all Chinese nationals that want to come in and retire in the Philippines had anything to do with that, okay? I'm not saying that. I'm just giving you a basis as to why they vet a little bit deeper, okay? Japan, if you're coming in from Japan, they actually give the Japanese nationals a little bit more favorable terms, actually. They have a reciprocal visa waiver, which is a short-term tourism visa for 30 days. And they're among the top applicants, they say, for SRRVs. So, which is kind of interesting. I never really knew that until I researched it. But Japan and the Philippines, they have agreements that allow streamlined work permits and investor entries for specific industries like manufacturers, electronics. Ignore that phone. I think that's my wife's phone. Now, people coming in from South Korea, they have visa waivers and free port access, so up to 30 days, okay? And there's a high volume of Korean retirees and real estate investors that come in to areas like Cebu and Subic. So, and they also can apply for the SRRV and all the S series long-term or permanent residency type visas. And let's see now, North Korea. They're not eligible for visas with residency, like unless like they can't get an SRRV. They're really strict, and you can only imagine why. Okay, it's basically a communist country. I think I'm saying that right. I apologize if I'm not, but so yeah, that's a little bit harder. It's even harder for them just to get out of the country, let alone make it here, right? So anyway, so and it deals with countries like India, Iran, Russia, Israel, and Taiwan. Wow, those are all countries, with the exception of India, probably. But Iran, Russia, Israel, and Taiwan. Think about it. Those are all controversial countries right now that are victims of much political warfare. And they're not just the victims, but they're not only the ones receiving the stuff, but they're giving the stuff. So I'm not taking sides on there. Taiwan, no, Taiwan more so is just under the threat of China trying to, regain, which whether it really technically ever had Taiwan, I don't know, but Israel's just defending themselves. And again, that's just my opinion, okay? Russia, I won't give an opinion on, okay? And Iran, I won't give an opinion on. So India, ally of ours, as is Israel, as is Taiwan. So, you've got your SRRV, your 9A tourist, your 13As, your work visas, and all that stuff to deal with. And I think it's something you should really consider, okay? And what I'll say is that, again, this is primarily focused on the whether you should give up your SRRV and go to a 13A, or maybe go from a 13A to an SRRV. I don't know. Maybe if things feel shaky to you in your relationship, you can go to an SRRV. Just a thought. Anyway, and I hope that's not happening. I'll say a prayer for you on that. But I think that tying your residency status to another human being is always, and I lack for better words. This is when I need my chat GPT. I can look it up, but I'm using my phone to record. So I don't know. I would surely feel comfortable with the 13A, okay? And probably most of you would who are already married. But if you're engaged, or you're not sure yet, maybe you want to get married and give it a few years, make sure you'll be okay. But I don't know. Look, so again, it can go both ways. SRRV to 13A. Benefit is you get your money back. If you go 13A to SRRV, you put money out. Depends. Some of us have it, some of us don't. So, but just keep in mind the average age gap between couples in the Philippines is generally 15 to 30 years age gap, okay? Now, my wife and I only have about a 7 or 8 year age gap, I think, maybe. But yeah, the typical is 15 to 30 years, and there's nothing wrong with that. I know an expat here, and I'm not gonna say his name or anything, but and you probably know a lot too, who has a wonderful, wonderful girlfriend. She was 19 when we met, though I think she's 20 now. And he's in his early 60s. And they're happy as a clam, Everybody wants to immediately judge, oh, that's never gonna work. He's just there for, for the physical fun of it, and she's just there for the financial fun of it. It's, yeah. We don't know. We really don't know, guys. We don't know. We don't know what goes on between the walls, behind the doors. We don't know what goes on in your house or in our house. You don't know what goes, you know. So save the judgments. I try to. I'm a sinner. You know, I claim I am, and I do judge, and all I can do is try to improve on that. Okay, so. But any comments will help for the next episode, especially if I can get JR on one of the shows here. That would be great. And even if we have to do a virtual Zoom with them, we can do a side-by-side, and, you know, we can just do a Zoom, and or a live. You know, we can do a live, and the questions can come. But if you can ask whatever questions now, that would be a big help. I can feed it to him now, and then he can prepare for an interview, which would be great. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe. This is a small new channel. One subscriber at a time. That's how we do it. We are not monetized. Maybe one day we will be. I don't know. But the goal is just to help other foreigners, okay? And a shout out to all you subscribers out there. Thank you for subscribing. And if you do subscribe, you're going to be a little surprised because there's a lot of complimentary concierge type services and products coming your way. Okay, I'm working on them. I don't have a staff. I'm my own staff. And you saw my Persian cat Maui. He's my only employee, so, and he works cheap. All right, guys, thank you. God bless. And until our next video. Watch, like, and subscribe to all of our daily and weekly fresh video content. Thank you and have a blessed day.